right. So, the first question is, how did you get into gardening?
It's always been something in our lives. I come from a very, very big Italian family, so to help with that, I'm the youngest of seven. We always had vegetable gardens and everything, so it was always something that was in our life.
Love that. How many years have you been gardening?
More or less all my life. Well, I think the first 10 years that I remember was more eating the raspberries than actually gardening, but there was always the joke in the house, if you couldn't find me, I was either in the garden picking lettuce or
Oh, I love that.
or I was making a salad in the kitchen.
Yeah. Nice. Do you have any resources for helping to make your garden succeed, or where do you draw inspiration?
I have a really close friend. She's a huge gardener. But she currently lives in an apartment, so she can't garden. So she uses our garden to give us ideas and that sort of thing. And she likes, because we like to plant weird things.
Yeah.
So she uses us as guinea pigs.
Nice.
You should try this,
Yeah,
and then she
that's
sees what
fun.
happens.
Do you guys have like gardening days, or it's just
Yeah,
so-
Well, so she's single,
Yeah.
alone, so she can come over and she can
play in the
runs
garden?
around and plays in the garden.
That's
And
so nice.
yeah, we'll be sitting here drinking wine, and she'll be jumping through plants and.
Yeah. And as you were kind of guiding us through, you were saying that you, like, if you struggle with plants, you'll do research and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Is that just a Google, or do you have like a plant person that you follow on social media or YouTube or anything? Or
I love Monty Don. I know he's
Oh,
not
that's
really.
so fun.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
last tour, she
Yeah.
got Monty Don.
Monty
too.
Don's great.
Yeah.
I don't really have any specific person that I
Yeah.
follow. Like there's the whole Pinterest thing,
Yeah.
and then online, and
Yeah.
like when we were doing the waterfall, it was
Inspiration from there.
40 hours of YouTube videos on how to build it, and help from my neighbor who could lift the stones.
Nice. That's really great. Cool. Okay. What's your favorite thing to grow and why?
I'd have to say one of the funniest jokes that we'll say is that we love our vegetable garden because we can grow and nurture it and watch it, get to the point that it's ready to eat.
Yeah.
It's better than raising a kid because it doesn't ask you for money every 5 minutes.
So true. Yeah. And I guess as a chef, you're obviously like using it in your recipes and
Yeah.
stuff too.
And we have like the edible flowers, and we have all sorts of different things.
Mhm.
So it's like my little edible section, and then
that's lovely. Okay. What does gardening bring to your life?
calm.
Yeah.
Being a fine dining chef for 25 years, it's always been a way for me to decompress after work or on a day off, the rare moment you get a day off. It's always been that way to decompress because it's such a high,
Yeah.
you're yelling and screaming, and everyone's like,
Intense.
oh, so do you scream like Gordon Ramsay? And I'm like, we all do when we're in a kitchen.
You do what you gotta do. Yeah.
You don't have time to
Yeah.
sit there and hold somebody's hand and say, this is how you do something.
Yeah.
So,
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so when you get home, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
glass of wine, do some gardening.
So do you enjoy sitting in the garden and taking it in as much as you enjoy getting in the garden and like getting your hands dirty, or is there one over the other?
I would have to say I'm a self-diagnosed ADHD. I think the reason why I became a chef, because it's constantly moving.
Yeah.
I do love to sit out here. This is kind of the first year that we've been able to actually enjoy the garden.
Yeah.
So we enjoy it a lot more this year than we have in previous years, because this middle garden and all behind me here, this is all last year,
Whoa.
including all the stepping stones and everything.
That's awesome.
So
COVID did wonders.
yeah, it was actually funny. We were planning to do this when we were on our honeymoon
Yeah.
in 2019. So we had already planned to do this, and then
Okay.
when COVID happened, we were both laid off.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, well, now's a better time than any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was April, and it was freezing, and we
Went to work.
went to work.
Oh, it's-
12 square yards of soil,
That's awesome.
2 square yards of dolomite, 66 bags of concrete.
That's amazing. I love it. You guys did such a good job. What do you feel when you are gardening or sitting in your garden? I guess that's kind of what you said, is calm, right?
Calm,
Yeah.
accomplishment,
Yeah.
right? And then, of course, because my brain runs at 700 miles an hour, what am I going to do next? What's planting next? What's our next goal? What's our next?
Nice. How would you describe your garden style?
This is definitely cottage garden.
Yeah.
Definitely that nice oasis. We kind of picked plants based on hummingbirds, honeybees, and monarch butterflies. It was really great. The year before last, when we got married, the day after our wedding, we invited family over to the house because a lot of them had never seen it.
Yeah.
Because Kingston's 5.5 hours away.
Yeah.
And there was about 40 monarchs in our backyard.
Oh.
So it was really cool.
Special.
Yeah, it was really cool to sort of have that. It was it was great.
Awesome. Okay, what's your favorite month and time of day in your garden?
I'd have to say the spring, because we have 1,300 spring bulbs that came up this year, and we have another 300 coming.
That's awesome.
Go big or go home.
Might as well.
It's definitely the addiction.
Yeah.
But spring is definitely one of those nice. It's sort of that rebirth, that reblooming, and then the fall.
Yeah.
The evenings are my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm not a big sun person.
Yeah.
Um,
And it starts to cool down.
It starts to cool down a little bit.
Yeah.
However, being in Windsor, I've noticed that it doesn't really cool down all that much.
Hey, there's a nice breeze today.
There's a beautiful breeze today.
Yeah.
So this past winter was my 5th winter here,
Yeah.
and every single one of them has been different.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of nice though. It's always a surprise.
yes, it's a different cold here.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah. For sure.
You don't get the nice white snow or too much of it, but you get the cold here, I
Yeah.
find.
Yeah, it's damp.
Yeah.
I find that everything in Windsor is damp from September until April.
Yeah.
Where back home, it'll be minus 52 with a wind chill, which you go outside, your nostrils stick together, and your lungs hurt.
Yeah. Does your car start?
Your car does start.
Okay.
Sometimes. But then you walk inside and you're warm in 5 minutes
Yeah.
because it's a dry cold. The salt recalcifies and you can sweep your driveway. Where here, just nothing dries.
Yeah. No, it's just wet. Okay. What inspires your choices when it comes to plants? I guess maybe you mentioned that. Maybe it's the pollinators or.
Pollinators are a big one. We're really into the whole trying things new, trying something that looks cool.
Yeah.
So we have black tiger lilies that are planted, Asiatic lilies. We have miniature ground orchids that we planted for the first time this year, and tiger flowers, which we had never heard of.
Yeah.
The Peruvian orchids.
So how do you come across these new ones? Is it just you guys going to garden centers and greenhouses and you're like, oh, I've never heard of this before?
Yeah, well, it's funny. So some of them is my husband at work. He works at Costco.
Okay.
And they had these Peruvian
Yeah.
daffodils that he was just kind of like on break. He grabbed them and
Yeah.
was like, we got to try these.
Yeah.
Before he even looked into them or did anything,
Yeah.
right? Just
Yeah.
they look neat, let's get them.
Yeah, for sure.
So some of it's kind of like, oh, look what I
On the
found.
whim. Yeah.
Other times it's going to Anna's, going to
Yeah.
the Blooming Gardener, going
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
wherever, and trying to find the neat, interesting things.
Yeah.
And then my go-tos, I love delphiniums, I love
Nice.
lupins. That, finally it looks like I'm actually having some
Yeah.
success with.
This year's the year. Okay, what dreams do you have for your garden?
I want to do food and wine pairing classes in this garden.
Yeah. That would be amazing. I love that idea. So when are you going to do it?
All is going to depend on many different things,
Yeah.
like as COVID
COVID.
restrictions
Yeah.
lift,
Yeah.
when I can be sure that it's safe to do so.
Have some little dinner parties.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What would you say is the thing you do best in your garden?
Well, there's the joke side, which is drink wine, because
Obviously.
no one likes a quitter. But there's, I would have to say, is that it's relaxing.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time with relaxing.
Yeah.
So being able to come out here in the morning with a coffee or later on in the evening, the glass of wine or a tea or whatever, it's really, really nice to just sort of sit back and watch what's happening.
Yeah.
We have a family of cardinals here. We've got blue jays here. We've got yellow finches.
Yeah.
We almost got taken out by a hawk the other day.
Oh,
And we just installed our bat house.
Oh, nice.
oh, cool.
So,
Cool.
yeah. So in the evenings, when we're home,
Relax. And so
look
chill
up at dusk to see how
Yeah.
many bats are around. So,
That's very cool, and I like your lights. It's nice.
oh, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of plants, do you have any that are like hand-me-downs, or you knew you had when you were a kid, and you're like, I have to have more of these, or whatever it may be?
Well, I lost my mom about 2.5 years ago,
Oh.
and her favorite flowers were gladiolas.
Okay.
So I have 80 gladiolas.
Oh,
So that's how old she was when she passed.
Mm-hmm.
And forget-me-nots was another one of her favorite flowers. It was actually really nice. I was working at a garden center last year when COVID first happened, and I was laid off. And I couldn't find forget-me-nots anywhere. And a woman who was shopping there said, "Where do you live?" So I gave her my address, and she actually dropped some off on her front step the next day. And so we have them, and they've gone to seed. So
Yeah.
we've thrown them everywhere because I want them to go everywhere
Yeah.
because they're so neat.
Yeah.
And then Cosmos was another one
Yeah.
of my...
That's Cosmos there?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
One
I
of my
just
mom's-
planted some from seed, so I'm
Yeah.
like, what do they actually look like?
Yeah,
Cool.
they're really neat, airy, and then these ones are the white, pink, and yeah.
Nice.
So
They're so tall. I was not expecting that.
yeah, well, and it's funny because I'm not sure what variety my mom had, but they were 4.5 feet tall,
Wow.
and they were just a solid pink.
Wow.
And she didn't have to plant; they reseeded every year, and they just
Okay.
came up every year. And I don't know how she did it
Okay.
because, like, I mean,
Yeah.
Kingston's zone 6, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it happened, but for
Wow.
years and years and years,
It's like her signature
yeah,
thing.
she was
That's
able
so
to do it.
awesome.
So
Oh, well, that's really nice. All great. Is there anyone that you'd like to pass down your knowledge for gardening?
I think really what it comes down to is kind of like being in culinary and in the wine industry is you become passionate about something, and it's really anyone who wants to listen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
When I've done wine seminars and that sort of thing, I talk about my garden,
Mhm.
and I talk about how, you know, I'll sit there and I'll be trying a new wine or whatever, and I'll be like, oh, I think I have some nasturtiums blooming, and
Yeah.
going and grabbing nasturtiums and trying the two of them together.
Yeah.
And then, you know, be like, if you've got Merlot, have McDonald's.
Yeah.
Because it actually goes really, really good together. You know, the biggest
Yeah.
misconception with fine dining chefs is that we eat really well.
Yeah.
We eat really well at McDonald's. Last thing we want to do is go anywhere near a kitchen.
Yeah.
That's so fair. Yeah, never thought of that.
So it was neat. I did some junk food wine pairing at a place,
Yeah.
and I took all of the wines at this one winery and paired junk food to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, hint of lime Tostitos go good with Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh,
That's so fun.
Swedish
Can we have a
berries go
party
really
with
good
this
with
guy?
rosé.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So
Very cool. Okay, well, I'm going to ask one more question,
Sure.
too, just in terms of, like, I guess, do you want us to include ways of that people can follow along with you in your garden, or with you have so many things going on, and eventually, if you want to have these garden parties, do you have any social media or
I
ways
do
of,
on
yeah.
Facebook.
Okay.
It's called Dorocco Family Kitchen. I can give you a business card.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be great.
And so you can do that. And then I'm also with the Windsor Essex Horticultural
okay.
Group on Facebook.
Perfect. Yeah. All right, yeah. Definitely give me that, and then we can point them in that direction. So then if you ever have your garden parties, when you have your garden parties, they can come and people know about it.
Honestly, morning dew farms and like
yeah,
that would
I
be
feel
perfect.
like do you know about Morning Dew Farms? at all?
No, I don't.
Oh my goodness. We'll have to show you. I guess I can pause this now. But so she has huge, like 2.5 acres
Yeah.
of
Oh, wow.
property in Wheatley. And there's all these little, she eventually wants to host events, weddings, anything.
Okay.
Like harvest dinners.
Yep.
And so if you ever wanted to have like a bigger event, I feel like the pairing would just be so
Mhm.
lovely. So she kind of does arrangements and like wreath making with dried flowers. I would say her favorites are
Zinnia.
peonies, zinnias, and straw flowers.
Okay.
So, but yeah, she has all these different areas where you could have events, and that's like her dream is
Right.
to host events at this place. So it's like, I mean, obviously you want to do it here, but if you needed to do a pairing, like a bigger event, the two of you, I feel like would be.
I did a, just going back quite a few years, back in Kingston on Wolf Island, one of the Thousand Islands.
Okay.
I was invited as a chef, and we did a farm to table event, and it was 4 courses out in this
Beautiful.
middle of a farmer's field,
Oh,
and you would actually go into his fields and you'd pick the vegetables you wanted to use,
gosh.
and you had to
So
incorporate it.
cool.
You had a
Yeah.
you had a specific protein that you were given, and you
Yeah.
had to do something with that. So
That's so cool.
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So there was 3 nights of that, and there was a different chef each night.
Wow, that's cool.
Um,
I wish we had more. Maybe we do have stuff like that around here. I guess maybe I don't know of it, but
But yeah, I'm not like, I know that there's like cooking classes. So I used to do the cooking classes with LCBO
okay.
when it was
I
still
heard
doing,
those are really great.
but they're done now.
Oh, because of COVID or
No,
forever?
forever. About 2 years ago,
Yeah.
they would have 2.5 years ago they closed it permanently.
Okay.
It was the one out at Roundhouse.
Yeah.
And then Superstore Zayres, I used to teach the cooking classes there.
Yeah.
But because of COVID, they shut it down. But then they decided that they are permanently closing it. And they were a lot of fun.
Yeah. What about like an Airbnb experience? Know how they have those?
I know that a friend of mine actually 2 blocks over, they have an Airbnb,
Okay.
and they've talked to me about,
Yeah. Doing that.
doing a dinner at their house or doing something like that. Yeah, eventually that's one of the things that we would love to do is get like an
Seems
old house
perfect
and
for
do
you.
like an inn.
Yeah.
Rather than having like the breakfast, I'd
Mhm.
rather do like a wine pairing. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
you call it really a B&B. It'd be
Yeah.
kind of like a,
But you could just do like an experience.
Yeah.
You know how they have, right? Instead of the stay and everything,
Yeah.
you could just have one of your events. That would be cool.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
much potential. So many things that I don't know. Everything that you've studied just goes so nicely together and that you're passionate about. It's,
it's been a lot of fun. I've made a
Yeah.
career out of going to school.
That's okay.
Yeah, I also have my diploma in marketing, and
Okay.
then I have 2 degrees: art history and special education.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
so,
all the things.
Yeah, I actually developed a cooking class
Okay.
for kids with learning disabilities.
That's so cool.
It was something I really, really wanted to do.
Yeah.
My parents were really, really active in the private sector with disabilities,
Yeah.
with fostering. They were
Yeah.
foster parents. They were the creators and founders of Bethany House,
Okay.
which was a home for women who could no longer go home for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So they were the founders of that in Eastern Ontario.
That's
So
amazing.
so
Very
it's
cool. Wow. Busy
They-
fam.
yeah. There's
Yeah,
27 of us.
including you. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Brothers,
Wow, and they're
sisters,
all-
nephews, nieces.
They're all Kingston?
No, I have a brother and his family in Ottawa, a sister and her family in Ottawa,
Okay.
and then my brother Jody, my brother John, and my sister Maria are in Kingston with my dad,
Okay.
and then my sister Lisa is in Markham, and then I'm here. My nephew was in Amsterdam.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he's a environmental engineer. And then I think one of my other nephews is in Hamilton.
All over the place.
I have a
Yeah.
niece in Toronto.
Yeah. Scattered. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice to have a big
I know I'm the
family.
furthest west.
Yeah. That's okay. What else? Is there any other questions? I don't know. I think I'm good. I just need a business card from
Yes.
you. And then, is that it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're good. Maybe I'll take a few more photos, just like
Sure.
far away ones. 'Cause I feel
If you
like
want to
it's
go
very-
up on the deck,
Yeah,
you can
that might
actually
be
get
good.
kind of
I might do that because it's hard to get like all of it in.
there's not a lot up there.
Yeah,
It's
no,
really-
it's perfect for photos.
Yeah.
Down. I'll do that.
Yeah, we have the neighbor's, it's a mulberry tree,
Oh, cool.
and it's
Is it
got the
messy?
fruit on it. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's actually a
All
fun
right.
place to sit back here in the morning because
Yeah.
the squirrels fight and throw each other out of the trees. It's so funny.
Amazing.
Like,
Yeah.
it's actually really funny.
That's
It's
your
like
entertainment.
watching American Gladiator. It's
I love it.
And I think that's why
what a
we
nice
saw the
breed.
hawk.
Oh yeah.
Was because it was chasing another bird.
Yeah.
And we were over there by the waterfall, and it came swooping in. I thought it was going to take us out. Like, the thing was huge.
Jeez.